They say betrayal doesn't always announce itself with screams or shattered glass. Sometimes it slips into your life quietly, like fog rolling under a door. For me, it began on a Thursday evening, under warm kitchen lights, with my wife telling me she was leaving town for the weekend. "Amanda's organizing a college reunion," she said, absently stirring her tea. "Just a few of us from the old dorm. We haven't seen each other in years." I nodded, watching the spoon clink against the sides of the cup. "Sounds fun. Where's it being held?" She smiled. "A lakeside resort near Columbia. Super chill, nothing fancy. Just wine, stories, and catching up. You know how it is." I did know. At least, I thought I did. Kara and I had been married 7 years. We met in a dusty campus bookstore, back when everything felt lighter. I'd reached for the same used copy of On the Road as she did, and we laughed. She was confident, magnetic, with the kind of smile that made people forget their train of thought. She was studying communications. I was diving into architecture. Somehow we worked. We married after grad school, settled into a suburban rhythm, quiet dinners, home projects, laughter echoing off beige walls. There were no kids yet, by choice. We both wanted to focus on our careers before expanding the chaos. She worked in public relations. I ran a small but growing design firm. Our life was calm, predictable, maybe too predictable. She left Friday morning with a duffel bag, a hug that lingered just a little too long, and a casual, "Love you. See you Sunday." I stood in the driveway, watching her car disappear into the golden shimmer of sunrise. Something about the way she drove off stirred unease in my gut, but I couldn't put my finger on it. That first night alone, I did the usual. Ordered Thai, watched a documentary I'd been meaning to see, fell asleep on the couch. The house felt too quiet without her soft footsteps, her laugh from the hallway, the scent of her lavender lotion. Saturday morning, I wandered into the bathroom, rubbing sleep from my eyes. And that's when it started. A toothbrush lay skewed across the sink, not hers. This one was black, bristled, unfamiliar. I picked it up slowly. The head was still damp. She hadn't mentioned anyone staying here, no guests. Maybe she bought a new one? No, she never used black. Curious now, I opened the drawer beneath the sink. A small bottle of men's cologne nestled in the corner. Musky, spicy, something I'd never wear. I stood still for a long moment, the bottle cold in my palm. She was supposed to be away. I checked the guest bathroom. Empty. Then our bedroom. Everything looked normal until I noticed the faintest indent on her pillow, like someone had recently laid their head there. My side was untouched, exactly how I'd left it. I told myself I was being ridiculous. Paranoid. Maybe she'd packed the wrong bag. Maybe the toothbrush belonged to a friend visiting last week. But the feeling didn't fade. It deepened. I made coffee and stared out the window for a while. By afternoon, I opened her laptop. It wasn't locked. We'd always shared passwords, no secrets. But now it felt like crossing a line. Her recent searches weren't related to any reunion. Instead, I saw top lake resorts near Columbia, luxury cabins for two, best restaurants for couples South Carolina. Then there was an email, tucked in the archive. The subject line read, "Can't wait to see you." From Daniel Everett. I didn't know the name. I clicked. "Hey Kay, it's been too long. Can't believe it's really happening. Just you and me, a whole weekend without pretending. I booked the cabin, our cabin, like old times. No one has to know. D." My heart stalled. A slow dread crept in, pressing against my ribs like a rising tide. I stared at the screen, rereading it until the words blurred. I stood up, felt dizzy, and had to sit again. She lied. Kara lied. There was no reunion. She was with someone else. I paced the kitchen, trying to breathe through the heat in my chest. Questions swirled faster than I could grab them. Who was Daniel Everett? How long had this been going on? Where exactly were they? I opened her calendar. Friday to Sunday, college reunion, Amanda's cabin. But I'd seen Amanda just last week, at our neighborhood block party. She hadn't mentioned a reunion. I scrolled Kara's messages. She was meticulous, nothing suspicious in plain sight. But I found a draft email, never sent, tucked away. "Daniel, I told Matt I'd be at Amanda's for the reunion. He doesn't suspect anything. This has to be the last time, though. I can't keep lying to him. I love you, but I'm still married." Kay. My name was in the same sentence as last time. She'd done this before. My hand clenched so tight around the mug it cracked. I needed more. I grabbed my keys and drove. No idea where I was going. My mind screamed, throat tight, every nerve on fire. I stopped at Amanda's house. She answered in leggings and a ponytail, holding her toddler on her hip. Hey, Matt. Everything okay? I stared at her for a beat too long. Kara said you two were doing a college reunion this weekend. Her brow furrowed. College reunion? No, I've been here all weekend. Just me and the chaos, she said, motioning to her child. I nodded slowly. Right. Must have been a mix-up. Thanks. I got back in the car, sat in the driveway, breathing through the storm inside me. She's not at Amanda's. She's with him. I drove home, checked her email again, and found an auto confirmation from a place called Whispering Pines Retreat. The reservation was for 2 nights, Friday through Sunday. For K. Weston. My wife's name. I called the resort. A bored-sounding receptionist answered. Hi. I'm calling to check on a reservation for Kara Weston. I believe she's staying there this weekend. A pause. Yes, she's currently checked in. Is she alone? I'm afraid I can't release guest information. I hung up. I knew enough. I closed the laptop and sat still, staring at the floor, my jaw tight. My wife lied. She was spending the weekend with someone else, pretending it was a reunion. She had planned it, rehearsed it, even wrote emails about how easy it was to lie to me. The worst part? She wasn't even sorry. Not yet, because I hadn't confronted her. But I would. And when I did, I wouldn't just ask questions. I'd be ready, with everything. I'd make sure that when she came home Sunday night, she wouldn't return to the same husband she left behind. The rest of that Saturday crawled by in a haze. Every sound in the house felt amplified. The hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the hallway clock, the faint groan of the floorboards. I sat in the living room, lights off, phone in hand, scrolling through her social media as if the answers were hidden in the gaps between smiles. Kara hadn't posted anything since Thursday. I can't wait to see my girls this weekend, with a smiling selfie and a champagne emoji. There were likes and comments from her coworkers, a few heart reactions, but Amanda's name was conspicuously absent. My hands trembled as I stared at the post. A facade, crafted perfectly for someone like me to see and feel reassured. It made me sick. I didn't sleep much that night. I laid on our bed, my bed. I corrected myself, watching shadows shift across the ceiling. Every creak felt like her footstep. Every whisper of wind outside made me think she was back early, caught in the act, remorseful and soaked in guilt. But no, of course not. By morning, I made up my mind. I wasn't going to wait until she got home to piece together her lies like some clueless husband in a drama. I was going to find her. Whispering Pines Retreat. That was the name on the reservation confirmation I'd found in her email. A quick search revealed it was 2 hours away, nestled beside a sleepy lake in a wooded pocket of South Carolina. Private cabins, no cell signal in most areas, and ideal for romantic getaways, according to their website. I packed light, just a jacket, a pair of sunglasses, and the DSLR camera I hadn't touched since our anniversary trip 2 years ago. I didn't know what I was going to do when I got there. Part of me hoped she'd be alone, that this was some misguided attempt to reclaim solitude or reflect, that maybe, somehow, the email from Daniel was a cruel prank. But I knew better. The drive was quiet, just the sound of tires and wind, and my heartbeat in my throat. Trees blurred past the windows, their autumn leaves rustling like whispers I couldn't quite catch. I arrived just before noon. Whispering Pines wasn't much. A central lodge, a gravel parking area, and 10 or so cabins scattered around the lake. Everything smelled like pine needles and damp wood, the kind of place designed to make you forget about reality. I parked down the road, out of sight, and walked the trail around the lake. It took me almost 30 minutes to circle the water, careful to stay hidden behind trees. I saw couples walking, fishing off docks, some reading on porch swings. It felt like an alternate universe, quiet, peaceful, and completely unaware of the storm inside me. Then I saw her. Cabin 7. She stepped out in a robe, hair damp, coffee in hand. She stood on the porch, looking out at the lake with a smile I hadn't seen in years. It wasn't the polite smile she wore when friends visited or the strained one she flashed when we were late for dinner plans. It was soft, content, real, and it wasn't for me. A moment later, the door opened behind her. He came out barefoot, shirtless, hair tousled like he'd just rolled out of bed. Daniel Everett. I recognized him instantly. Not from any introduction, but from photos buried in her old college yearbooks, still boxed in the garage. They didn't speak. He just wrapped an arm around her waist and kissed the side of her head. I felt something snap inside me, not with a bang, but with a sickening quiet, like a thread pulled too tight. I lifted the camera. Click. She leaned into him. Click. They laughed about something, their voices soft, unintelligible at this distance. Click. The lens became a barrier between us, a shield to hide behind while I captured the unraveling of my marriage frame by frame. I didn't know why I kept shooting. Maybe I wanted proof. Maybe I needed to confirm this wasn't some dream, that my life hadn't twisted itself into a lie. They disappeared inside. I lowered the camera and backed away, heart pounding. The urge to storm the cabin, throw the door open, and confront them both surged in me like fire. But I held back. I needed control. I needed leverage. I found a small overlook up the trail where I could see the porch clearly but stay hidden. I waited. Hours passed. She came out again around 4, dressed now, laughing, holding his hand as they walked toward the main lodge. I followed at a distance, staying behind trees and parked cars. They stopped at the gift shop, browsed for a bit, and kissed again before heading back. I got it all. That night, I returned home. I sat at the dining table, the same one where she'd said, "Just a girl's weekend." I spread the photos across the table like evidence in a trial, each one cut deeper than the last. Her robe, his hand on her lower back, the kiss. I stared at them until the lines blurred. She was coming home in the morning. I knew what I had to do. I didn't sleep again that night. I printed 3 of the clearest photos and slipped them into a white envelope. No note, no words, just truth. I left the envelope on her pillow, then packed a duffel bag with the essentials. Wallet, keys, my grandfather's old watch. I didn't know where I'd go yet, but I knew I wouldn't be here when she walked through that door. At dawn, I stood by the window and watched the sky pale into morning. Light crept across the floor, slowly inching toward the envelope like it too was afraid of what it held. My phone buzzed. It was her. On my way back. Be home in a couple of hours. Miss you. I didn't reply. I stared at her message for a long time, then powered off my phone and slid it into the drawer. Let her walk in and find it. Let the silence speak louder than any accusation. Let the truth settle like ash in the air. And let her wonder where I'd gone. I didn't go far. Just far enough that she wouldn't find me immediately. I stayed at a motel 30 miles outside the city, a place that smelled like bleach and bad memories, where the hum of the vending machine in the hallway was the only company I wanted. The room was small, a single queen bed with stiff pillows and a television that flickered more than it played. I sat on the edge of the bed most of Sunday, waiting. Not for her to call. She wouldn't dare. Not right away. I waited for the gravity of it all to hit me. For rage, for sorrow, for clarity. But nothing came. Just a dull ache behind my eyes and a buzzing in my ears that refused to quiet. I imagined her walking into our house, her suitcase still warm from the trunk, tossing her keys onto the kitchen counter like it was any other Sunday. I saw her ascending the stairs, maybe still humming that song she always played when she wanted to feel young again. And then, she'd see it. The envelope. Lying there on her pillow. A silent scream. 3 photos. 3 undeniable truths. Her hand in his. His lips on her forehead. Their silhouettes framed in the cabin's doorway, like a scene from some tragic love story. Would she crumble right away, I wondered? Would her knees give out as mine nearly had? Or would she sit down slowly, pretending she wasn't shaking, still telling herself it wasn't what it looked like? I imagined her reaching for her phone, ready to text me, call me, only to find the line dead. Silence. That was the point. Let her feel it. Monday came. I didn't go to work. I called Ethan, my business partner, told him I needed a few days, maybe more. He didn't ask questions. Just said, "Take your time, Matt. We've got this." In the motel room, I replayed everything. Every conversation from the last few months. Every glance she'd cast over my shoulder. Every time she'd said she was tired. Not tonight. Maybe tomorrow. How long had she been pulling away while I kept leaning in? I thought of our wedding day, her eyes soft behind the veil, her hands trembling when she said, "I do." Had it all been real then? Or was she already nostalgic for someone else? By Tuesday morning, I couldn't sit still anymore. I returned home. The driveway was empty. Her car gone. I opened the door to silence, the kind that follows a storm. The house was clean, too clean. The living room had been tidied with robotic precision. The kitchen sparkled. Upstairs, our bedroom door was open. The envelope was gone. So was half her closet. I found a single note on the dresser, her handwriting small and hurried. Matt, I know what you saw. I can't explain it. I won't insult you with apologies that mean nothing right now. I need time to think. Please don't contact me. K. Time to think. That was rich. She'd had plenty of time to think when she was making her reservations, packing her bag, letting another man kiss her neck. I tossed the note into the trash, but the words etched themselves into my brain anyway. My hands curled into fists. She wasn't even sorry. Just I need time. I went to the garage, where we kept a few boxes from college, old photos, yearbooks, letters. It took me an hour to find what I was looking for. Daniel Everett. He'd always been there in the background. A name on old notes. A photo from spring break where his arm lingered around her a little too long. She'd once mentioned him, years ago, in passing. Oh, Daniel. He was just a thing before you. It ended. Apparently, not quite. I typed his name into my laptop. He had a LinkedIn page, freelance travel photographer. There were links to articles he'd published, a few interviews. He had a smug smile and a graying beard now, but I recognized him immediately. And then I found it. An article on a lifestyle blog, Reconnecting with the Past, When First Loves Come Calling, by Daniel Everett. It was dated 3 weeks ago. Sometimes, the love you left behind wasn't finished with you. We drift, we grow, but when two souls speak the same language, even time can't silence them. You spend years pretending it didn't matter. Then one weekend, you look into her eyes and remember, it always did. My blood ran cold. This wasn't some casual lapse. It was premeditated. He'd written about her before it even happened. I stared at the screen, hands shaking. You arrogant bastard. I opened a new browser tab. It took some digging, but eventually, I found his photography site, complete with an email address. I stared at it for a long time, debating whether to write. But no, that wasn't the path. Kara had built a fantasy with him. One where I didn't exist, where she wasn't a wife, just some wistful muse from a past life. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to dismantle that fantasy piece by piece. The next morning, I paid a visit to her job. The receptionist's eyes widened when I walked in. Mr. Weston, I thought Kara was on vacation? Change of plans, I said coolly. Is Joy in? Joy was Kara's boss. I'd met her once at a holiday party. Stern, efficient, the kind of woman who kept secrets only when they served her. In her office, I didn't waste time. I laid the photos on the desk. This man, Daniel Everett. She met him this weekend. Lied about where she was going. Told you she needed time off for a reunion. Joy's eyes flicked over the images. She leaned back, expression unreadable. I see. I thought you should know, I said, standing. It seems she used the company card to book her stay. Joy didn't reply immediately. She simply nodded once. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I walked out without looking back. By afternoon, Kara's work email had been disabled. Her profile vanished from the company's site. I hadn't needed to do more, just show the truth. That night, she texted me. You went to my job? Really? I didn't reply. Another message followed. You're trying to destroy me. Still, I said nothing. I let her sit with it. Let her stew in the silence she'd once given me. But I wasn't done. Because the next step wasn't just letting her feel the consequences. It was making sure he did too. And I knew exactly how. It was late Thursday when I finally pulled into Charleston. The city buzzed faintly beneath the glow of streetlights, the air thick with brine and humidity. I parked near the marina, just outside the art district, and stared across the dark water where masts swayed like skeletal fingers in the wind. Daniel Everett had an exhibit opening here. I'd found the flyer online, a self-congratulatory launch for a new collection titled Wanderlust, Echoes of Love and Loss. Pretentious nonsense. He was promoting it as his most personal work to date, a series inspired by a woman who reminded him that time doesn't diminish longing, it only refines it. I wondered how many people would toast to that sentiment, unaware they were clinking glasses to someone else's wife. The event was held in a converted loft gallery, all exposed brick and minimalist lighting, the kind of place where everyone wore linen and spoke too softly. I didn't go in, not yet. Instead, I waited across the street, hidden in the shadow of a closed cafe, watching the guests trickle in. I saw him before I saw her. Daniel Everett, taller than I expected, but older too. He had the weathered charm of a man who mistook gray hair and smile lines for wisdom. He wore a black blazer over a white shirt, sleeves rolled, the camera slung across his chest like a badge of honor. Then she arrived. Kara. Hair up, dressed navy blue, the one she wore to my firm's gala 2 years ago. I remembered how I'd stared at her all night back then, proud that she was mine. Now, seeing her on the arm of someone else, laughing like her heart was weightless, it felt like watching a ghost wear her skin. She kissed him, lightly, but not quickly. They walked in together. I waited another 10 minutes, then crossed the street. Inside, soft jazz played from hidden speakers. Photos hung in curated rows, black and white portraits of abandoned roads, foggy beaches, lovers caught in silhouette. His signature was etched in silver on each print. The crowd moved slowly, wine glasses in hand, murmuring appreciation as if admiring relics from a sacred past. I spotted them near the back. Daniel was entertaining a small group, telling a story with his hands. Kara stood just behind him, sipping white wine, her eyes scanning the room. She didn't see me, but I saw everything. I wandered the gallery, pretending to admire the photos. Then I saw it, the one centerpiece of the collection. It was a photo of her, taken from behind, standing on a lakeside dock, barefoot, in the early morning light. Her robe trailing slightly, hair undone, arms folded around herself. The caption beneath it read, "Morning Stillness. K. Whispering Pines, 2025. They'd made her into art, framed her betrayal, printed it large, and lit it for the world to admire. I took a picture of the display with my phone. Then I slipped away before she ever noticed. Back in the car, I breathed deep. My hands were steady now. This wasn't about jealousy anymore. This was about erosion. A slow theft of my dignity, my trust, my time. And I was going to take something back. I drove to a small coffee shop around the corner, one that stayed open late. I ordered black coffee, sat near the window, and pulled out my laptop. I still had access to our shared cloud drive, the one where Kara stored everything. Receipts, work documents, even copies of her travel expenses. I found what I was looking for in less than 3 minutes. One folder, innocuously labeled Colombia. Inside, hotel confirmations, receipts from restaurants, a digital photo folder. All dated last weekend. They weren't even encrypted. I downloaded everything, then crafted an email with care. I attached several files, including the Whispering Pines booking, Daniel's photo of Kara from the exhibit, and a few of the images I'd taken from afar. The recipient? The editor of Wanderlust magazine, who happened to be showcasing Daniel Everett in their next issue. I found her contact info in a press release from last month. I wrote the subject line carefully, concerning Daniel Everett's current work, legal and ethical concerns. The message was short. Dear Ms. Langley, I thought you might be interested in these attachments. The subject featured in Mr. Everett's centerpiece image, Morning Stillness, was photographed without proper model release. She is a married woman whose likeness is being exploited under misleading circumstances. More concerning is the potential liability if her husband, myself, chooses to pursue legal action. I would advise reviewing your upcoming feature carefully. Regards, M. Weston. I hit send. Then I sat back, sipped my coffee, and waited. The response came 4 hours later. Mr. Weston, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We were unaware of the context behind the work in question. The upcoming feature has been suspended pending legal review. Sincerely, A. Langley. One domino down. The next morning, I returned home. It was quiet, except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. I walked through each room slowly, like I was saying goodbye. I'd already called a realtor. Our house was going on the market. I'd drafted the divorce papers too, had them overnight to her temporary address. I didn't need to speak to her. Not yet. But that evening, she showed up anyway. I heard the key in the lock. The door creaked open like it didn't recognize her anymore. Matt? She called, voice uncertain. I stepped out from the kitchen. She froze when she saw me. Her eyes were tired, hair down, dressed in jeans and a sweatshirt now, stripped of all the gloss from the gallery. You weren't supposed to be here, she said quietly. You weren't supposed to lie, I replied. Silence. I saw everything, Kara. I saw the cabin, the photos, the gallery. I took a step closer. You let him turn our life into his exhibition. Her lip trembled, but she didn't cry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. But it did. I was unhappy, she said, almost a whisper. I didn't know how to say it without breaking something. So instead you shattered everything. She looked at the floor. It started as nostalgia. Just emails. Then coffee. Then. You don't have to explain. I cut in. I'm not here to listen to excuses. What do you want? I looked at her for a long time. To show you what silence feels like. Then I handed her the envelope. Not with photos this time. This one held divorce papers. And at the very top, in bold black ink, a note written in my handwriting. You wanted a news story. Here's how this one ends. She stared at it, stunned. But wait. We can talk. We can fix. No, I said. You already made your choice. This is mine. She stepped forward, reaching, but I backed away. Behind me, the door stood open. And this time, I was the one walking out. It's been 3 months since I walked out that night. 3 months of silence, of rebuilding, of slowly scraping off the remnants of a marriage that turned out to be more illusion than foundation. People always say time heals. Maybe. But what time really does is clear the fog. It dulls the sting just enough to let you see the wreckage for what it is. I live in a loft now. It's nothing special, concrete floors, brick walls, high windows with no curtains. But there's space. Light. Quiet. I bought a new couch. Tossed out the old one with the wine stain she never quite admitted to. Bought a bed that only ever holds one person. Chose every item in this place myself. I started painting again. I hadn't touched a brush in years. Not since college, before architecture, before blueprints and client meetings and zoning permits dulled my edges. Now, on weekends, I stand in the middle of my new space, music echoing off the walls, painting for no one but me. It's not great art, but it's honest. Something I couldn't say about a single moment of the last year of my marriage. Kara signed the divorce papers without protest. Her signature came by courier, folded neatly on the line like a white flag. No contest. No notes. No requests for a conversation. Just her name, looped and clean. She didn't try to call me again after that night. Didn't show up at my office, or the gallery downtown where she knew I used to spend lunch breaks. She disappeared. Whether out of guilt, shame, or relief, I couldn't say. And I didn't care enough to find out. But I kept an eye on things. Not because I still loved her, but because I wanted to see how long it would take her fantasy to collapse under the weight of reality. Daniel Everett lost his gallery partnership. After the magazine pulled his feature, other clients started asking questions. The woman in Morning Stillness, who had never signed a model release, became a liability, not a muse. Legal threats followed. Sponsors withdrew. His next exhibit was canceled. His website went quiet. Then came the headline. Photographer Daniel Everett accused of exploiting former lover in unlicensed works. The article wasn't flattering. It described him as manipulative, careless with boundaries, reckless with the people he claimed to love deeply. Kara wasn't named, but anyone who knew could read between the lines. I didn't write the article, but I didn't stop it, either. Her career fared no better. Word got around. PR is an industry of optics and relationships. When your name becomes synonymous with scandal, doors stop opening. She quietly resigned from her firm. I imagine she tells people it was her choice. Maybe it was. Maybe she's still with him. Maybe not. I don't know. And I don't ask. Instead, I wake up in my new place, grind my own coffee, and stare out the window at a city that no longer feels like it's trying to choke me. I go to work. I see friends. I started running again, lost 10 pounds I didn't know I'd been carrying. I've reconnected with my sister, who always said Kara smiled with her mouth, never her eyes. Funny how we only see the truth when we've got nothing left to lose. People ask me if I'll ever date again. Some well-meaning friends even try to set me up, as if moving on is a race, and I'm limping behind. I tell them I'm not there yet, that I'm focusing on myself. It's not a lie, but it's not the whole truth either. The truth is, I don't want to be someone's second choice again. I don't want to wake up 10 years from now and find another envelope on the pillow. The last time I saw Kara, she stood across the street from my new place. It was raining. She didn't cross, didn't wave. She just stood there, arms folded, staring up at the building like she wasn't sure if it was the right address or just some place that used to matter. I watched her from the window. She stayed for a minute. Then she turned and walked away. No note, no drama, just like that. And that, I suppose, was our real ending. Not the envelope, not the papers, not the headlines. Just two people standing on opposite sides of the street, finally realizing they have nowhere left to go together. And me? I'm still here, still standing, still breathing, still learning how to be whole again, one brushstroke at a time.